We are actually nearing the finish line of our series on the book of Esther, and I think you have been all enjoying comfortably sitting there. So every week we have always our take-home message. And of course, the setting of this plot, the book itself, The Divine Reversal, is actually malapit po sa ating lahat because it's like a teleserye. No? The plot is like connected. The one chapter is actually connected to the next. So you really don't want to miss coming every Sunday. But I hope po that aside from learning every week the lessons that is given to us, the take-home message, we don't forget to apply it in our daily lives because it is very important to act on the challenge that is always posed to us. Okay, last week's conversation, Tita Barry actually ushered us to chapter 8. Chapter 8, we saw that Mordecai and Queen Esther asked the king, can you please reverse Haman's edict? Cannot. So what did they do? They request for the second edict to be approved. And true enough, the king approved the second edict. And then the last 3 chapters of chapter 8, we saw that first, Mordecai was elevated to the second most highest position in the kingdom. And then all the Jews is actually very, very happy towards the end of the chapter because of Mordecai's investiture. Nagkaroon sila ng taro sa loob ng palasyo. And another thing is the second edict was already scattered throughout the kingdom. Okay, so if you are listening to what I am trying to say here, at the beginning of the center of the book, chapter 6, there is actually something that is happening. There is a reverse or a turn of events in the life of the people or of the Jews in Persia. Di ba sabi natin way back in chapter 3 and 4, they're actually mourning and kind of like very sad because they know for a fact that they're going to die one day. But here in chapter 6, there is actually a turnaround of events. Mordecai was given honor, and suddenly, nakita natin, parang nagbago yung plot. Have you encountered this kind of situation in your life? I think you will be able to relate with me if I say that, oh, yes, I have encountered that. That I thought it is already the end of the day, the end of the light for me, like everything is supposed to be bent for its destruction, and yet suddenly happened. No, parang, oh, bakit nabago? And do you think this is actually just luck or coincidences that is happening in our lives? Chapter 9 of the book of Esther will usher us to how God turned the tables for the Jews in Persia. And if you are taking down notes, this is the title of our conversation, When God Turns Things Around. And if there is one overarching message or take home for today is this: our sovereign God can reverse the irreversible. Sovereign, someone who has an ultimate power. Kumbaga po sa Tagalog, pinaka, the superlative, pinaka makapangyarihan. Someone who can do anything under the sun. That is our God. Sovereign in the sense that He can reverse, He can flip, He can change any situation that you are in right now. But I cannot guarantee that the result is always favorable on our side. It could be unfavorable also, but I really don't know the reason why. That sometimes it could really happen, that the result is unfavorable to us. But one thing that I can guarantee you is that our God knows what's best for us. He will never contradict His goodness to us. And He will always love us. And that is one assurance. Okay, let's dig into our slides. So on the 13th day of the 12th month, the month of Adar, the edict commanded by the king was to be carried out. On this day, the enemies of the Jews had hoped to overpower them. But now the tables were turned, and the Jews got the upper hand over those who hated them. Just to give lang a time frame for our text today, between chapter 8 and chapter 9, there is about a gap of 9 months. Because if you have read already chapter 8, it says there that Queen Esther and Mordecai actually asked the king's approval on the 3rd month of the Jewish calendar, Sivan. And it says the D-Day. The final day is actually the 13th day of the 12th month of Adar. So there is about a gap of 9 months wherein both camp is actually preparing. Why is it the 13th day of Adar? Remember in chapter 3, way back in chapter 3, actually Haman cast lot. Alam niyo po yung lot casting? It is like rolling the dice. Di ba may mga game na gano'n, yan ang tataya ka? It's like rolling the dice because during that time, it is an ancient tradition to roll the dice, to cast the lot or to cast the pur. Persian term for lot casting is pur, P-U-R. So they would cast the lot for a simple reason that they want to determine a specific day or to randomly select a day or to determine the will of a god. So Haman casted the lot thinking that 13th day of Adar is an auspicious day to kill all the Jews. See, he thought that it is that suerte day. But what happened in our verse today, it says, the tables were turned. So those enemies of the Jews had hoped to overpower them, but what happened? The tables were turned. Simply, this is already the summary of chapter 9. Even without going into details, we know what happened. That the Jews were very successful and victorious that day. That they were able to defend themselves during that day. And what is the significance to us? Something had caused these things or this series of events to happen. And the Hebrew word that is used here is hapak, which means to invert, to turn it around, to reverse, to turn it right side up. There was no mention in the book of Esther, especially in chapter 9, who causes the tables to turn. There was no mention. In fact, the author is actually very silent. Who helped the Jews during the time? Who caused the tables to turn? Haman was actually thinking that by rolling the dice, his God actually controlled the fall of the pur. Since that is the one, so he thought this is the perfect day. None that he knows that God is sovereign and cannot be manipulated by superstition. In Proverbs 16:32, it says, the lot is cast into the lap, but its every decision is from the Lord. God, not chance, not luck, not coincidences, is in control because He is sovereign and He is the one controlling every situation. In Ephesians 1, chapter 11, it says that God works in accordance to His will. So there is no chance in history that is all coincidental. Anything that happens is always by the will of God. Haman forgot that during the time, he thought that by casting the lot, it is a perfect day. Kasi alam niya, this is the will of his God. Plus, remember, King Xerxes approved the edict. So he thought there's no chance that it will be reversible. It is already going to happen and they're all gonna die. That's what he thought. He forgot that our God is sovereign and can reverse the irreversible. God allowed what they planned and reverse it for His glory. He allowed things to happen and reverse it for His glory. Applying this truth and principle today, I think if I will ask you, each and every one of you, to stand here and tell a story about how God really reversed your situation, I think we have numerous examples really to tell. Way back po in 2019, when we are actually moving to our new place, it really happened to us. Because one of the conditions of the bank when we are actually moving for us to grant our mortgage is to sell our old HDB flat. During that time, Sobrang daming tumitingin. Every week, kailangan kong linisin ang bahay. But at the end of the day, the agent will tell me, oh, I'm so sorry, they don't like your house. It's too small. Why don't you throw all your furniture? I said, huh? Why should I throw my furniture? I haven't even transferred. But he said, then it would make your house big. Okay, so we actually do that. Still no takers. So I am actually surrendered to the idea that I cannot change the seemingly unchangeable situation. No buyer, no contract from the bank, then I cannot move in. But this is the catch. Without moving in, without fulfilling the contract of the bank, we will definitely lose our deposit. But I told myself, never mind, maybe it's okay, we can still earn it. Sabi ko kay Pastor Mike. But actually, deep inside, of course, nakakapanghinayang. It's a big amount of money. And then, one day, he led us to this man. Actually, it's our lawyer, and help us step by step on what to do. And suddenly, my agent said, someone wants to buy your house. It was the previous viewer. Do you think this is just a sheer luck, a coincidence? Definitely no. This is actually a providential intervention because God controls everything in His time. He is not late. Hindi po nalilate si Lord. He's always perfect in His timing. And until now po, almost 5 years, we are still in that place. I know po, you can relate to me and you know that there is a story in your life that is the same as mine. That God is sovereign. He can control everything because He loves us. Verse 2-4, the Jews assembled in their cities in all the provinces of King Xerxes to attack those determined to destroy them. No one could stand against them because the people of all the other nationalities were afraid of them. Talking about divine reverses. This is one good example. The life of the Jew in Persia is one good example of a divine reversal. Why? If you are actually in a place like the Jews, they're not actually from there. They are not local, so they are considered second-class citizen. I think we all experience that because we are also not from here. So they are second-class citizen, and then they must have felt that they are the weakest elements of the society. That is in chapter 2 and 3. But in chapter 4 actually, and look what happened in chapter 9. It says, no one could stand against them because the people of all the other nationalities were afraid of them. Imagine, from the weakest to the most powerful clan, to the most powerful race. What a reversal. And all the nobles of the provinces, even the kings, the satraps, the governors, they all wanted to help them because they are very scared of Mordecai. Another stunning reversal in chapter 9 is the life of Mordecai. Remember, he was just a guard, a mere guard, an unknown man in chapter 2. But look at here, chapter 9, it says, even the highest ranking officials are all very scared of him. They fear Mordecai. Maybe because the way Mordecai attacks a certain task is very fierce. Enough to actually demoralize his opponent. And then look at this one. Mordecai was prominent in the palace. His reputation spread throughout the provinces, and he became more and more powerful. What a stunning reversal. And do you think who can do that? Do you think who can do that? Do you think this is Mordecai alone doing this? Of course not. We know for a fact that it is God returning the events in the life of our main character. From a man that is immaterial, that is nothing, to a man that is really recognized all throughout the kingdom of Persia. The Jews struck down all the enemies with the sword, killing and destroying them, and did what they pleased to those who hated them. And just in the citadel of Susa, they killed 500 men. And then the name of Haman's sons, the 10 names of Haman's sons were also enumerated. Some of the citizens of Persia during that time might have took advantage of Haman's decree, but without the government's support and the newly encouraged zealous race of the Jews, they were completely defeated. And then here, they killed also the 10 sons of Haman. Chapter 7, we know that Haman is gone. Patay na siya. But the 10 sons are still alive, and still during the time of the 13th day of Adar, they're still there, but they were killed during the battle. But what is the significance of putting all the names of the sons of Haman here? The life of Haman is also a complete reversal. Chapter 5, remember, we know that Haman boasts about his honor, his wealth, his 10 sons, his position. Because during the time, the more sons that you have, the more wealthy you are. And look at this one, the 10 sons were all gone. So because the ancient warfare is when they kill the leader, they will kill the entire family so that no one will take revenge in the future. And then looking into the names of the sons, it's very strange that the author actually enumerated it one by one. Very seldom that actually you will see this one. Why? Because there is a significance on this. Always associated with demonic powers. When you say demonic powers, then we can conclude that Haman and his sons are actually putting allegiance on Satan or on the demons. And by right, they should be all eliminated. But I want you to focus on the last portion of verse 10. They did not lay their hands on the plunder. Actually, we can still see this one in verse 15 and verse 16. 3 times the author is very careful to tell us that the Jews did not lay their hands on the plunder, where in fact Mordecai's decree allowed them to do it. Why? Because Mordecai's decree is an exact reversal of Haman. So kung nilagay ni Haman sa edict niya that you can plunder the Jews' property, it's exactly the same thing. But look at here, they did not lay their hands on the plunder. The Jews were very careful on that moment that they will never touch the plunder or the loot from the war, because they know for a fact that executing Mordecai's decree is not only about political war. It is something more than that. They know that they are actually engaging in a holy war. One of the rules of the holy war is that you cannot actually take the plunder. The holy war is against the Agagites, who are descendants of Amalekites. Now we will be able to understand. Let me bring you back quickly to Exodus chapter 17. During the time when the Israelites are actually escaping from the Egyptians, they were really running because magsasarado na yung Red Sea. The moment that they stepped on the promised land, you know what happened? These vicious Amalekites landed on them. And who are these people? The Amalekites are actually descendants of Amalek. Amalek is the grandson of Esau. Esau is the brother of Jacob, who actually sold his birthright to his brother. And maybe because Amalek actually was raised by Esau, maybe every day Esau was telling him bitterly that I should be the one inheriting all of this. And you know, it was passed from generation to generation. That's why the Amalekites really want to annihilate all the Jew. So you can see and you can read in Exodus, there is a long-standing feud between the Amalekites and the Jew. And another thing about the Amalekites, they actually practice child sacrifice, which the Lord really detests. It is a no-no. That's why when Joshua and the rest of the Jews entered the promised land, God's instruction for them is to blot out all the Amalekites. So what they are going to do as they enter the promised land, they will have to burn all living things, and even the building must be to the ground, because everything should be dedicated to the Lord. Everything should be devoted to the Lord. The silver, the golds, the precious items should be all put into the treasury. They don't have anything to do with the plunder. That's why in Deuteronomy, they were all reminded by Moses as you enter the promised land, if you want to live peacefully, what you have to do, blot out all the Amalekites. The Lord really hates this group of people because they don't fear God at all. Looking back, what happened during 1 Samuel? God commanded King Saul, to destroy all the Amalekites. But what he did during the time, he committed the greatest sin, that is keeping King Agag, and then the rest of the precious plunder, he took it to himself. When Samuel actually asked him, why did you do that? He said, no, actually, I will dedicate it to the Lord. Pero nagsisinungaling siya. So this disobedience from the commandment of God, actually God rejected him as king of Israel. So going back again to Esther, it says here, they are actually engaging in a holy war. The plunder cannot be taken. Because in a holy war, no personal profit should be taken because they were acting not only on their behalf, but as an agents of God's fury or revenge. So nakita natin why the Israelites or why the Jews are actually very, very careful not to take the plunder, because this is a commandment. And they know for a fact that in Esther, they are engaging in a holy war. Do you know po that the battle between the Amalekites and the Jews in Persia is the last recorded battle of Jews against the Amalekites in the Bible? That is the last one. So tapos na po, nasunod na nila, they have obeyed God in this commandment. The number of those killed in the citadel of Susa were reported to the king that same day. The king asked Queen Esther, the Jews have destroyed 500 men and 10 sons of Haman in the citadel of Susa. What have they done in the rest of the king's provinces? Now, do you think King Xerxes is very upset on what is happening? There were a lot of his own people being murdered. Diba? And for me, and reading all of this is another reversal in chapter 9. Way back po in chapter 2 or chapter 1, when Queen Vashti actually did not come out because the king asked him to parade in front of his drunkard court official, there was no single man that died that day. But he actually approved for Queen Vashti to be deposed completely. No? But look at this. No? Look at this. What King Xerxes asked? He knew that there were already 500 men that died during that day. But he asked Queen Esther, now what is your petition? Parang naging sunod-sunuran siya. It will be given to you. What is your request? It will also be granted. Why? Because God has sovereignly intervened in the king's mind to the extent that he actually supports plan that includes executing thousands of his own. This is really a reversal on King Xerxes. So what did Esther tell the king? If it pleases the king, Esther answered, give the Jews in Susa permission to carry out this day's edict tomorrow also, and let Haman's 10 sons be impaled on poles. Upon reading this one, parang nakita ko, mukhang naging vindictive na si Queen Esther. Because we know that Haman's edict only allowed the enemy of the Jew to kill on the 13th day of Adar. But here, there is another request. On the 14th day, it is legal for a Jew to kill someone whom they know hated them, but it is illegal for those enemies of the Jew. So parang hindi fair, di ba? Because there is a reason why is it like that. And then he said, let Haman's 10 sons be impaled on the pole. Patay na eh. Kanina natin, di ba? Sinabi natin that the 10 sons were all dead. But he wanted the bodies to be impaled on the pole. Why? Because it is a visual warning for the enemy of the Jew not to do the same mistake with these people. So talagang parang nagkaroon ng courage si Queen Esther. No one can really touch the Jew during that moment. So what did King Xerxes do? The king commanded that this be done. The edict was issued in Susa and impaled the 10 sons of Haman. They were saying maybe Queen Esther received a private intelligence that that actually the enemies of the Jews are going to attack again on the 14th day. So inunahan niya na. No? She was really a clever leader. The Jews in Susa came together on the 14th day of Adar, and they put to death in Susa another 300 men. But they did not lay their hands on the plunder, because as we all know, they all know that they are actually engaging in a holy war. Meanwhile, the remainder of the Jews who were in the king provinces also assembled to protect themselves and get relief from the enemies. 75,000 men, but was killed during that time, but did not, again, verse 16, they did not lay their hands on the plunder. So this happened on the 13th day, and the following day, those who were in the provinces, they actually celebrated. And that's the start of the Feast of Purim. 18 and 19, it says that since the edict in the citadel of Susa is still true on the following day, they still continue killing. So the following day, the 15th day of Adar, they celebrated the Feast of Purim. They celebrated, and now it is being celebrated still now as the Feast of Purim, 2 days, because the 14th day of Adar is for the provinces celebrating it, and on the 15th day, because they have a killing for 2 days, they celebrated it on the 15th day. So, if we can see this one, I will just, kailangan ko pong mag-break dito, because next week, we will continue and finish the book of Esther. Discussing, as we went through the book of Esther, we can actually tell that that God is really the one who causes the situation to reverse. There was no mention of God's name in any of the chapters that we have read, or any of the chapters that we have studied, but it is very clear that we have seen and learned the divine reversal throughout the book of Esther. Then we can therefore say that God can reverse things. God can change the impossible. God can make right that which is wrong. God is sovereign and is in control of everything. God can and will do whatever He has promised, but sometimes you don't know how He would do it. But just to remind all of us, I didn't guarantee please don't misunderstand me. I don't guarantee that He would, only that He can. Maybe today you are here, and then you feel that you are actually hurting because you feel that God kind of like let you down. God did not reverse your loved one's sickness. And then some of our relatives actually died of COVID, but we keep on praying for them. Maybe God did not reverse the situation at work and you lose your job. Maybe God did not really answer your prayer, and then your employment pass is still hanging there. Maybe God did not fix your marriage. Maybe God did not overrule this, overturn that. Maybe God did not really answer what you are really praying for. I don't have the answer honestly. I don't know why sometimes He did and He didn't in some of the occasion. But I can assure you today that if you have really given and dedicate if you're given and entrust your faith to God and repented of your sin, He has actually reversed your life completely. He has done the greatest reversal in your life. Instead of having an eternal death, He has given us eternal life. Instead of condemnation, He has given pardon. Instead of punishment, He has given forgiveness. Instead of exclusion, He adopted us to His family. What a great reversal. Do you know someone that is hard-headed, stubborn, irreversible, and you have already put judgment on this person, and you say, this one definitely cannot change. This one definitely is doomed for destruction. Do you know that someone? Or maybe it is us. I have a brother in the fraternity po. I really don't like this guy whenever I met this guy in our little tambayan. So we actually gathered in a small hut during college. Because whenever this guy enters, he is full of himself. He would cuss and cuss, cursing. Ayoko po nun. Kahit nung hindi pa ako Christian, I really don't like hearing someone cursing. Like, lahat ng buka ng bibig, mura. Alam niyo po yun, I don't know whether you met that kind of person that they will just cuss and cuss and cuss because it is what is inside their heart. So I've never seen the guy after I graduated. He's actually a doctor of veterinary medicine as well. And then one day, he called me. He said, I'm in Singapore, sis. I said, oh, what are you doing here? Are you working here? I said, no. He said, no. You know, he is attending a pastor's conference. Talaga yung mata ko parang malalaglag. But because I put judgment on him, I thought that he will never change. You know, when I talked to him that day, I was so, so blessed. I can hear the blessing. His mouth is full of blessing other people. So we cannot really judge. Do you think that you are irreversible or someone you knew is irreversible, unlovable, that cannot change anymore? Hindi po yun totoo. Because our God can reverse the irreversible. So our challenge for today is to trust God because He is sovereign. We will never know His will, but one thing that can assure all of us today is that He always wants the best for us. So whatever it is, favorable, unfavorable on your part, that is the will of God to us. And I would trust Him with all of my life because God can reverse the irreversible.